Hello and welcome to Landmark Difference Makers. My name is Seamus Ford and I'm Landmark's Director of Community Engagement. And today we're going to be interviewing Dr. Elona Gaball. She's a dedicated, compassionate dentist based in Southern California and is known for her specialized work in restorative dental care. Her mission goes beyond ordinary dental practices. She focuses on helping women who have survived the harrowing experiences of human trafficking. Dr. Gaball understands that recovery and reclamation of self-esteem are crucial for survivors, and she believes in the power of a restored smile to heal and empower. Through her innovative treatments and empathetic approach, Dr. Gaball and her team not only restore teeth, but also help rebuild lives. Her work has not only given her patients their smiles back, but has also helped them take significant steps towards reclaiming their identity and confidence after trauma. Dr. Gaball will share her insights into her journey, the challenges these brave women face, and how restoring someone's smile can be a transformative step in their recovery process. Elona, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think the first thing we want to do is go ahead and uh, just educate people a bit about human trafficking. It's something that is taking place all over the world and often in plain sight, and we're not necessarily aware of it. But um, can you educate us a bit about the nature of this?
Yes. So, well, I don't know too much about the global aspect of it, and I know it's a huge problem worldwide. So I just focused on being making a difference in my local community. So I just learned a lot about San Diego, and now I'm actually working with some ladies from Orange County. So in San Diego alone, which is actually statistics by FBI presented by District Attorney of San Diego area, and that's formally known, if you want to look that up. So that is anywhere between 3,500 to 8,000 people, or primarily women. So it's not only women, but primarily women trafficked in San Diego alone who are US citizens and also residents of San Diego County. So that is also not including people who are not registered citizens and residents of our county. So it's a huge pervasive issue, and trafficking is also many times it's misunderstood. Like, so there's prostitution, which is trading sex for money. That's different, legal or not. Again, so trafficking is against someone's will. It's actually known to be modern day slavery. And again, we live in a free country where slavery was abolished, right? How many years ago? So that is actively happening to that degree. That's how many people are actually literally enslaved in San Diego every year. San Diego alone, US citizens, right? The residents of this county. And it's $810 million industry. So it's motivated by profit and financial gain, and then really based on demand. So if there's demand, of course, there's going to be a way to fulfill that demand, and that is kind of why it's happening. Again, us being close to the border, some of it does impact that, but again, this is not counting people who are being brought in from across the border illegally. That is like literally people of our county. It is easier to escape. So a lot of times, when things happen and they get discovered, then people do get taken across the border to kind of escape, or get actually thrown across the border dead, or left for dead, or killed there. So that does happen, and that does contribute to it being like a little easier. Plus, it is also because we are a big center for tourism and conferences. And I don't know if you read the news or it was actually on the news too, for Comic-Con is like a yearly conference that happens here. There's a huge raid, and a lot of people got arrested, I think over 140 people. So it is a big deal, and that's kind of why it's so prevalent here specifically.
How did people end up in being trafficked? What are people aren't born into it necessarily, hopefully,
Mhm.
but how do people end up there?
Well, it's multiple reasons and ways. So one of the ways, so it could be as extreme as like the movie Stolen, for example, where someone like literally gets kidnapped. So a lot
Mm.
of times it's women, going out with friends, drinking, being on their own. without someone giving them a ride. So things like that. So that can happen. Most so and it's different ages too. So it's not always only really young or in the middle. It's on the younger side, yes. So that's one way. Actually, the most prevalent way is someone interacting with someone on the phone, pretending to be like someone forming a connection. And then actually, most traffickers are very skilled in emotional manipulation. And then they get to have a person like fall in love with them and then build the relationship. So they build the relationship first. And then after that, it kind of turns into that at some point. So that is actually probably majority of how that ends up happening. And it's also not just people like, who don't have families, who are on the streets. That does happen, of course, if someone runs away from home or homeless, like they're much more susceptible to things like that. But a lot of it actually starts online with young girls like wanting to do modeling, or like, my parents don't get me, I need to have a boyfriend and he really loves me, and like things like that. So that is actually probably the most prevalent way from what we know. And then also drugs is a big deal too. So if someone gets addicted to alcohol and drugs, they end up kind of crossing paths with someone who is a trafficker. And initially they maybe buy drugs from them, and then it gets into that too. So that, then we had a couple of ladies, and these are like just the stories of people I know. So I've not seen thousands of people. So I've been helping with this cause for over 6 years, and I've seen personally 187 people. So, but
Mhm.
these are like the stories I know.
There's many paths that lead
That's
people being caught up in
Oh
traffic.
yeah, families. So that's what I was like trying to yeah, the story that I was thinking. So families like having parties and having alcohol and like inviting lots of people to the party, and then a daughter ends up being there and people are drunk and like parents don't know where she is, and one of the people, or sometimes it's actually part of the family, ends up, having sex with her, and then like after that it just kind of leads into that slowly. So that's happened a couple of times with the ladies that I have helped.
You said you've been involved with this for 6 years. What is it that initially led you to have the depth of commitment that you now have to this issue? Was there a particular event?
Yes. So well, I think myself, so I was born in Russia. I grew up there and I came here as a junior in high school. I finished my last 2 years of high school in the United States and ended up going to college, meeting my husband. So Russia is not a free country, as we know. So I think having the opportunity to leave a country that's not free and to build a life of freedom is something that's just deep down part of who I am, like really standing for freedom and really being grateful for the fact that I have freedom and I can choose a life and I can be a woman entrepreneur doing things that I'm doing. So that's one aspect. Second is I have 3 daughters. So of course, I have a heart for women in general. And also, well, what I mentioned is I don't know if I mentioned that or not quite yet. So my father, he was in prison most of my upbringing. And again, like I was not trafficked nor raped or anything like that. Although just me growing up in Russia with my dad being in prison twice, from the age of 5 till 12, I like there were so many instances when something like that could have happened, that I just was delivered by the grace of God, and it didn't, but I do, like, I have special like incidents that I remember that something like that could have happened. So those are aspects of why. And then I have always had it in my heart to really, well, like I would hear a story about something like that, like sexual abuse, violence against women and children, and just really be broken and cry and pray. And it's like, God, oh my gosh, like what's happening? Like, how is this possible? And well, when I first got my practice, I've been a dentist for 25 years now. And I got this, my husband is in the Navy, so I got the practice 10 years ago. I actually wasn't doing well in the beginning. I am doing really great. I'm very blessed now. And it's just, and also, again, I know this is landmark conversation, and not to say that I'm trying to promote it necessarily, although, so I wasn't doing well. I ended up being invited to participate in the landmark forum. So I ended up doing that. And then then we were in the advanced course around that time. And again, just trying to figure out how to make the business work. It was just like me working and working and working, putting in the 18 hours a day, and like still things weren't really working 2 years into it. And part of the advanced course was really, so I just specifically, well, once we completed the past, like, okay, then we had this clearing within which to now create a future outside of reasons and considerations. So if like, right, if you could just do anything, like what would you do? And I remember a specific exercise that we did, I believe it was in the advanced course, of like, well, making a difference. Like if you were to make a difference and just take something that's really, really big, like what would you want to make a difference in? And as we were doing part of that exercise, that's just something that touched my heart. Like I felt like, okay, well, I'm crying and praying, but really I'm not doing anything about it besides, I mean, not to say that having compassion and empathy and prayer aren't important, like they are really important. And also just seeking like, what is God's will for my life? Like, what am I going to really dedicate my life to? So in that process, I just decided to like, well, I'm going to do something about something that I deeply care about. And in nothing, I can really make a difference, right? Like yes, it's a horrible thing that's just, so it seems like, wow, it's so overwhelming. Like, what can we all do? And I was like, well, maybe I can't do everything about everything, but I can do one thing. I can take someone and I can restore their smile, give them just health, dignity, love, and then just give them a whole new opportunity for life. So I could at least do that, right? So that's how it started for me. And since then, again, and then I spoke to my team and I was like, okay, well, now we're going to measure our success not by how much we get, but how much we give. So, like through that process and exercises we were doing, so I felt like, yes, I at that time, when I am very successful, I'm doing really well. And I also was doing like a lot of training in advanced rehabilitation, aesthetics, and you like want to utilize these skills. And I was like, well, these people could never afford the services, like, and they would never even come into an environment like ours and be able to even like have this experience. And I wanted to give that to someone as a gift because of like the opportunity that I got from coming to this country. I'm also like faith-based Christian. So I feel like God gave me an opportunity to make something worthwhile of my life. And that was given to me by, undeserved favor as grace. So I just wanted to like not only just profess that, right? And go to church. And again, like I wanted to like be that, like be love in action, be grace in action, be compassion, and like actually like right, like be that versus like, like you think you have all these qualities, but in reality, are you like being that? And to me, that just um became something that was very tangible and how I can like really be that. And then again, that was a declaration that I made, is like, okay, this is how we'll be measuring our success, by how much we give, how much we give. So we set our like practice goals, like we're going to give this much. So in order to be able to do that, we have to do this, right? So, and that was 6 years ago.
Wow. Well, you touch on something about, for people that aren't familiar with Landmark, one of the things in the advanced course, that course that Elona was talking about, you get to invent a possibility, something that really expresses who you are. And I just have to say, you used a phrase which is actually the possibility I invented when I did the advanced course, which is the possibility of being love in action. So I very much resonate with that aspect of what animates you. Well, it's undeniable that there's an enormous amount of trauma associated with being trafficked. And, a lot of people might not consider that uh, rebuilding your smile has something, to do with healing from trauma. Um, for somebody maybe kind of skeptical about the connection between those two, what would you say?
Mhm. Well, yes. So I had a very specific example. So one of the ladies who contacted me from, so I work with two local rehabilitation centers, Alabaster Jar Project and also Generate Hope. So they're in San Diego, and then now a new place that's in Orange County that's called Run to Be Free, and that is actually home for girls under 18, which is, obviously very heartbreaking. So with that, so specifically about trauma. So one of the ladies that I helped about 4 or 5 years ago, so she came to me and she was like, well, she was missing one of her front teeth. And then she said, could you just please do something, like just do something, like I just need a tooth in there, like just do something. So I ended up adopting her and like just taking care of everything, her whole health, like restoring it with like beautiful restorations, the porcelain. So, and so once we so her story was that how she was what ended up missing a tooth was that through trafficking. So there were several events, but one of them was like she was beaten really hard with like beer bottles in her face, to the point where she actually had the skull fracture, and she has like a really big dent in her head now. So, and with that, like one of her teeth was completely avulsed, or like came out and it was broken. So, anyways, so the reason why she wanted to replace that tooth is that, and she told me that actually later, once we completed the smile, we're taking the photos, is that she said, well, like I've gone through rescue and healing and did so much therapy, and like I've really progressed quite a bit. But one thing like that I just can't or couldn't, prior to having my smile restored, I couldn't break through in this area of trauma, because every time I look at myself in the mirror, and of course, as women, how many times a day do we do that, right? Like I would like see myself, I would see that missing tooth, and they would just take me back into the trauma. So like she couldn't break that cycle of trauma or like PTSD that she had from that, due to like always seeing herself with a missing tooth. And then once we restored the smile, she was like, I just like literally can't believe it. I looked at myself in the mirror and I don't see that anymore. Like I see a whole new person, and that incident doesn't arise within my heart and mind anymore. So I feel like that actually like broke that cycle of trauma or PTSD that I was having, that I couldn't control at all. So that's when actually I was like, wow, this is like a lot more than just a gift of a smile. That's really, transforming people from the inside out and allowing them to heal far above and beyond of what the smile can offer, which is, a lot. So that's when I just realized it was like a lot more significant than, just, yes, we all love beautiful smiles. Of course, it's great. And yes, and we know socially, like we have sociological studies that, they tell us that people make an impression of someone within 7 seconds. Their smile is the first. So we connect with our eyes, and then we make the judgment of someone based on their smile. That's a known fact. So again, if you have, well, I put in some photos of like ladies that are, and a lot of them I can't really share, like, even this example, right? If you have a smile like the top, you can like people obviously, and yes, it does come from, drug use and things like that. But again, like if you look like that and when you smile, then, people put you in a certain category, of course, too. So it's really hard to well, form a high quality relationship, also get jobs, or with missing teeth, right? Like you can only do so much. So that actually also, I feel like it really helps people to like get on the right path and, get a good job and reestablish themselves within community into something that is now, productive, right? And allows them to take care of themselves on their own.
The way that you just shared that, it really strikes me at how instantaneously that transformation of one smile, something that, I have a daughter who has a cleft,
Mhm.
and right now, she's kind of on a track for reconstructive surgeries, but she won't smile with her teeth,
Mhm.
now that she's in high school.
Mhm.
And I get it, but I never really thought how tied, our looking in the mirror is to this sense of ourself.
Mhm.
And that if you've lived through a trauma and you have a visible reminder every time you look in the mirror of that past, how difficult it would be to put it behind you.
Yes.
Well, you talked about how expensive this treatment would be ordinarily, and you're one practice, and you shared with me that you actually have one day a month where the practice makes itself available to patients from this community. Um, what do you do to raise the resources to be able to provide that kind of treatment, given how expensive it is?
Yes. So, well, it's work in progress. So I did create my own nonprofit. That was actually part of some of the work that we did, the landmark courses that we did. I ended up meeting a lot of people who have founded nonprofits, and I feel like in this community is just something that is, quite prevalent. People like really take on projects that are good for the community and create nonprofits. So that's kind of how well, at least I decided to do that in order to be able to create resources. Because initially I was just like, well, I'm just going to do it, right? Like it wasn't a good time. In fact, our CFO was like, oh my gosh, like, so when I said I wasn't doing well, I was actually like losing money a few months in a row. And when he found out that's how I wanted to solve the issue, he was like, you can't do this. Like, you can't possibly like start giving things away. And I said, just watch it, just trust. So, and they still can't believe it. So with that. So initially I was like, no, I just believe that. I trust it. And I know it's going to come back. Again, I am faith-based. So I felt like that was the right thing to do, like what God wanted me to do. With that, either way, I think, what you put out, you do get back. And it wasn't like in order to receive anything. I just truly wanted to live again, like through our work, like my deepest drive is to be generous. Like that's just who I am. Like truly, like once we peel off all we slay it, like this is who I am. To be fully self-expressed, I have to be generous, right? So I decided to do that initially. Then we started to structure initially I didn't really have a way to get resources. So we started to structure our practice to be able to do that from like the actual like business goals, right? So we have like our monthly goals, yearly goals. So we set up a goal so I decided, okay, well, I did wanted to smiles, and then I was like, okay, it costs this much, so I just paid for it on top of not making money. So and then after that we just created practice goals where like 10% of what we do would go towards our effort to support this. So well, then it required us to do better, right? So I had to really think of like, how can I create such a practice where we can make room for that? So one of the ways that we do that is like, for example, if someone is a client and they want to do like smile transformation for themselves, like be it whitening, Invisalign, like veneers, things like that to improve their smile. So 10% now I have like an actual nonprofit that I can give him actually tax deductible receipt with 10%. So I can do that. So that's one of the ways. But initially I was just pretty much, planning to support that effort through about 10% of what we produced in the practice. And then, so we also have had, well, now that I have the nonprofit organization, we've had a couple of events to fundraise. Again, we didn't fundraise a whole bunch of money. And it is very expensive. So, and it just allows, well, I think you have to be really committed to the cause to just set up your business in such a way where you could do this. And part of the well, not just like the practice. Well, and then so through again, the work that we did. So we did communication courses. So like a lot of that work was to really expand or like self-expression leadership, right? It was on like doing a community project. So you have to enroll other people into your possibility. So one of the ways that I did that initially, and I actually still do that, is I enrolled a lot of people. So like, for example, like I can give my time, right? Like that's just my decision, but then I need someone to do the crowns, to do lab work. I need, let's say, an orthodontist to do the braces, or I need an endodontist to do root canals. So I had conversations with them, like enrollment conversations, right? To have them say yes. So that was, initially, and still probably 90% of how we do it is through me engaging people, having them say yes to it, contributing like their time, energy, money, or resources. And so that's actually the major way that I do it through. And then again, one of the ways was like, yes, set up a nonprofit, and then you'll be able to at least like give people an opportunity to do tax deductible contributions. So that, and then and I myself, like my husband and I, give 5% of our income into the actual nonprofit. So then we can use resources for things like that.
Well, you've made very clear what you bring
Yeah.
to generating those resources. It's extraordinary. Um, but it's a huge need.
Yeah.
You cited 8,000 people that you know of that are citizens of the US that live in San Diego County.
Hmm.
That represents a tiny portion of just the United States.
Hmm.
How do you see this continuing to grow inevitably beyond you, uh, so that it really fulfills what you're committed to?
Hmm. So, well, I wanted to show that it's possible, right? It's possible, even like, right? So if it was possible for someone who is literally not making money, it is possible for someone who is doing, fairly well. So one of the ways is just me share. So I've been also sharing with people like in our practice in the community. So just having more events and things like that where I could share about our work, and if people feel compelled to contribute, great. Like we have a way to do that. Then, having more of those conversations with dentists themselves, right, within our San Diego County. So, and I have like several events already planned for that to be able to
Mhm.
like share it. Like, so my kind of not just commitment, but like a deep drive is to live inspired, like live inspired, because that gives me, the drive and then like this needed necessity to like continue with things that I'm doing, and also inspire others through not just what I say, but like what I'm doing. So being that inspiration for the dental community. So I feel like that's one of the ways that people can,
Yeah.
add what we're doing. So if, we have how many thousands of dentists. So if each person took one person, I think we should be able to at least cover the San Diego County, just one person, right? Like a year, maybe even. So we could definitely do that. And continue, well, and then the way that I set up my nonprofit, it's through an organization that allows for student loan forgiveness. So I don't have student loans, but let's say once we grow a little bit more, I'll be able to have, like, let's say another dentist who has student loans from their dental school, they can actually like be sort of like employed, by our nonprofit. They can do it in their own practice, and they can also qualify for the student loan forgiveness program. It's like a special way
Oh.
to set up a nonprofit that's for medical, dental providers, and chiropractic
Mhm.
practice. I'm sorry. So then the doctors, like if I talk to them, let's say they're open to it, they will have another incentive to why they would want to do that, right? So, and it actually doesn't take a lot, and it's similar to like what people would do when they do contribution work for like prison systems, or in the tribal communities. So it's like just like that. You can have like your student loans forgiven by working, let's say, at the Indian reservation for 3 years. So people
Yeah.
like literally can do that within the nonprofit by just doing what they already do, dedicate a couple of days, maybe one day a month even. It actually doesn't even take that much to qualify for that. And they can, forgive their student loans by doing community service. And then, what I'm doing could also be expanded past myself.
Hmm. I mean, it's just there's huge opportunities in all of that. You said earlier you've worked with how many? Well over 100, but how many patients have you
So
worked with?
right now, from the time we started, yeah, I just looked it up. It's 187 people that we've.
187 people over 6 years.
Mhm,
Have you had an opportunity to find out how things have gone for some of those patients after they've
mhm.
left trafficking, changed their lives?
Yes. So some of them, yes. So I don't have close contact with everybody. Although, so one of the ladies, she applied, so she got an apartment, she got married. She actually goes to our church now too, so that's really great.
Mhm.
And then she is writing a book, so that's really nice too. And then the other one, she's working. She just she's actually on those photos, so she let me use her photos. A lot of them I can't use because again, there's like a lot of well, confidentiality that's required. I can't even use like before and afters of teeth, but definitely not show
Mhm.
faces. So I don't have like a whole bunch of photos necessarily with people that we had. So she just yes, reformed the relationships with her family. So she's doing really well as well. So she's been sober for 5 years too. So that's really good and got a job. She loves her job too. So that's nice. The third lady that I've been in a lot of close communication with. So she applied for a grant through Point Loma Nazarene, finished a nursing degree, just graduating from nursing degree. So and
Wow.
she's starting a job, like a full-time job as a nurse too. So which I think, that's a big deal, especially considering she had no upper teeth and like completely decayed down black lower teeth. So I think again, not to say that the teeth were everything or the smile, but I'm sure that made a huge difference, for her to like
Yeah.
even be able to do what she did.
Well, one of the things that I find with, having done a lot of these interviews now is that there's something about, I'm going to assert this about you, that there's something about the work you're doing that deeply moves you.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you could share with us, something about the work that you do that really moves you.
I think it's just, yeah, that ability of having something that I do as my work and my job, right? And like really making a huge, like a tangible difference, right?
Mm.
Dentistry is already like most people are afraid to go to a dentist, right? There's already a trauma. Well, our like whole stand on our website like transform the experience. So we are definitely doing that for all of our clients, making it just a comfortable place where people are received. They can cry. They could sometimes they're here for 3 hours, just the new patient visit, just sharing their life stories. So we just like create the space where people could be themselves as one and then have like just having someone come in and enjoy being treated as like a high level client. We're actually in a very nice area of San Diego in Solana Beach. It's very like boutique style, so the whole practice is like elite, and we want to do it like at a very high level in terms of like what we deliver, right, with our work. So and like I feel like again like giving something like of great value to someone where they would never be able to access that. I feel like it's a huge privilege, for me to be able to do that. So I actually get really blessed that I'm like, no, I want someone to just experience everything and have like the best possible, not only experience and result, but also be treated as a worthwhile human being, being loved. Again, I treat everyone not like I'm this benevolent doctor. Like I never talk to anybody like that. I even tell them up front, like, this is not a gift from me to you. You are a gift to me. Like you give me an opportunity to really live according to my values, practice my faith in the real sense. And again, I'm busy at my practice 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Like I, am very driven by like, giving people what I feel, God gave me like an opportunity, freedom, love, like all these beautiful things. And I get to do that, on, a weekly basis now. So
Mm.
that just again, it moves me and it gives me um like the energy. And like I was actually just sharing with a friend, she came by, I hadn't seen her in a long time, and she's like, how do you have so much energy? I'm like, like, well, I'm like I have so much joy in what I do that I like you can't be tired of something that you truly love, and it feels so fulfilling and so beautiful and amazing, right? Like I don't know what else is there to do with yourself, right? Um, again, because I feel like that about what I do, it doesn't wear me out, even though like if you looked at my hours, you'd be like, "Oh, like this is crazy," you know. But I enjoy doing it. And some of those things, like we again learn through the practice of things that we learned through the courses, right? Like instead of like too many things to do, overwhelming, they're just things to do, huh? That I chose, right? I don't have to be a dentist. I could work as a, a 9 to 5 job at Starbucks with benefits. Like I choose to do this. This is what I want to do, and that's just what's required. Then just do what there is to do, right? So yes, so I do feel very fulfilled, and I would never trade this for anything with all the hours and time and energy and money that is involved, and also dealing with people. We've had some things that we would never be able to predict would happen, like people uh, like having issues and going on, committing suicide, like they can't come to their visit. Or we had this beautiful lady, she was only 19 years old and she was very anxious, like wouldn't come in, like 45 minutes later, we're like, okay, well, we need to get to things. So finally she like comes in, she like would just seem really anxious about everything, but we know like in general, right? Like dentistry is like an anxiety provoking field in general. And then finally, after an hour, she's like, well, can I go check on my baby in the car? And I was like, oh my gosh, you have a baby in the car? So she was living in her car, had like 3 month old, this little girl in her car. So yeah, like these, or one of the ladies I helped, we were like going through the treatment, and then like she was in provisional crowns, which are like temporary crowns, and then she ended up breaking her parole and had to go to jail. So then I had to like figure out a way of like, okay, do I go to jail and put the crowns in, have her being brought in, with the guards, or like what? So they're just like things they're so unexpected, and so
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a cliffhanger. How did you resolve that with a lady in jail?
So, well, again, making things work, you have to have a lot of conversations. And I had to speak with her attorney and just explain how important it was and that she couldn't, stay there. So they actually granted her special permission to come in so I can, put in all the porcelain restorations. And then she went back. So,
Hmm.
and then she just got set free. So she's on the picture in there with flowers in the card. So she writes me really nice cards for Christmas. Sweet.
Well, I have one last question that we've taken to asking everybody we interview. What do you want said about you when you're no longer here, when your work is done? What do you want said about you?
What I want to be said about me is that I want to be known for my love. And again, not in order to be famous, but like being love in action. And Martin Luther King Jr., he's actually my most favorite person in history. And his quote that I love, it's like my favorite quote that um I should know it, right? Um
About service?
like darkness, well, we can dispel darkness with darkness cannot break up darkness, right? Only light can do that. And hate cannot break down hate, only love can do that. I think there's a different word in it, I just can't think of it.
Yeah.
So I want to be like known for my love. Like I want people of faith and women to be known for their love. And I want to live a life of like where love is experienced in real active sense of what that means.
Mm. Well, Ilona, it really is a privilege to talk to you and really an inspiration to hear everything that you're doing. And from one person committed to being love in action to another, thank you.